Greetings, my beautiful lovelies. Hello, it's Emmy. Welcome back to another episode of Hard Times, where I'll be exploring recipes that came from times of food scarcity. So, in the comment section of my other videos where I had a steak made out of grapefruit peel and a dandelion salad, many of you have requested this recipe, and it is mock apple pie, and it uses Ritz Crackers as a substitute for apples to make an apple pie. So the thing I'm most intrigued about is, will this taste like apple pie? Will it? Can it? I'm not sure. There's a couple of interesting ingredients. There's crackers and then 2 teaspoons of cream of tartar, of all things. Cream of tartar you don't see too often. Usually you see it in meringues to stabilize a meringue, but it's not really used as an ingredient per se. So I'm intrigued by not only the ingredients, but what will it taste like? In 1934, Ritz, or the Nabisco Company, or at the time I believe it was called the National Biscuit Company, started printing the recipe on the back of the box. So while they are credited for making this recipe popular and bringing it to the masses, they are not the ones that invented this recipe. So people have been making cracker pies since the mid-19th century, when crackers or saltine crackers were invented, and they were used to make pretend fruits or pretend mincemeat pies. Depending on where you live, the crackers were actually as expensive, if not a little bit more expensive, than apples were. So that's a little bit debatable. It could have been just a matter of, whether or not the apples were in season. At any rate, this became really popular again in the 1950s and 1960s and 70s, when processed foods were going bonkers, and a lot of people say they grew up eating this, and I had never heard of it until you guys had mentioned it to me. So let's go ahead and start making it. In this pot on medium heat, 2 cups of sugar and 2 teaspoons of cream of tartar, or tartaric acid. So it is sour, and basically what we're making is an inverted sugar. Now, invert sugar I learned about when I was making my dragon's beard candy. So basically what the acid does, in this case it's cream of tartar, sometimes it can be lemon juice, it breaks the sucrose down into glucose. So what that does is, when the sugar cools, it doesn't recrystallize, so it keeps it soft. And that will make this texture of this pie more like apple pie, apparently. Kind of like pecan pie, that sticky, sugariness. We'll see. Now we're going to gradually add 1 3/4 cup of water. That was already getting hot. So we're going to bring that up to a boil, and while that's boiling, I'm going to zest my lemon. What I've learned is, instead of rubbing the lemon over the plain, it's actually easier to rub the plain over the lemon. Sort of counterintuitive, right? But you seem to have a little bit more control. Oh, it smells so good. Love the smell of lemon. All right, my syrup coming to a boil yet? Boil. Now, don't want the syrup to... Hopefully the syrup will be a little bit more cooperative than my syrup that I made with my dragon's beard candy. If you want to see some volleys, you should check out that recipe. Oh my goodness. All right, there's my zest. And there's my rusty knife. Squeeze my lemon into there. I'm just using this to catch the seeds. 2 tablespoons of juice, which is basically the juice of 1 large lemon. Smells amazing. So the recipe calls for 36 crackers. I'm presuming that means 1 sleeve, but let's count and make sure. 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 29. So we need 7 more. And we're going to crush these up. This one I'm just going to leave in the sleeve and do this. Amazing. All right, so crackers are crushed. Once our syrup has been cooking for 15 minutes, we're going to turn off the heat and allow it to cool for half an hour. In that half an hour, we're going to make our crust. Now, I looked up several recipes for this apple pie. Some of them use pre-made crust, but I thought, let's do it OG and make our own crust. This is one of my favorite crust recipes. I love it. This is an all butter crust. I know some people use shortening, some people use lard, but I always seem to have butter on hand, so this one works for me. One of the reasons why I love this recipe is that it uses a food processor, and this recipe comes together lickety-split, super fast. You do not need a food processor. You could cut in the butter with a pastry blender or a fork. It's just going to take a little bit longer. All right. So this is my food processor. I got it for $10 at a thrift store because that's how I roll. We're going to put most of our flour in here. This is 2.5 cups. I'm going to put in about 2 cups. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of sugar. What? Okay. Pulse this to blend. Now we're gonna add our cold butter. This is 1 cup of butter that I've cut up. Pulse this until it makes pea-sized crumbs. That's what it looks like. Now we're gonna add the remaining flour. Now I'm gonna turn on the machine and incorporate a 1/4 cup of cold, icy water. And then once it starts to form a ball inside the machine, turn it off immediately. All right, on. Probably about a teaspoon or so at a time, tablespoon. You can hear the machine already working. And there we have it. Another reason why I like this pie dough recipe is that I can work the dough immediately. I don't have to chill it and wait and blah, 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 blah. I can use it now because this girl needs it now. 4 pieces of wax paper, parchment paper, plastic wrap, whatever you got on hand. And I'm going to divide this into 2 portions because we have 2 crusts. If you have the time, you can also make this in advance, the crust portion, and then store it in your refrigerator and then take it out when you need it. Need it, get it? Need it? Except we're not needing it because this isn't bread. No, this is a pie. I forgot to add this to my syrup. Yes, done. Let me show you that really quickly. So here's my syrup. I'm gonna do this. Oh, lemon syrup. So back to our pie crust. So here's half of the dough. Add our paper on top. The instructions say to roll this out to about 11 inches. So I like to start in the middle and work my way out. 1/4 turn, middle, roll out. So try to maintain a circle. Doesn't have to be perfect, but when you're working with a pie, it does help when it's in a circle. Presuming your pie is a circle, or your pie pan. This is looking a little squarish, but it will round out. So when I roll, I try not to roll all the way to the edges because then the edges will get too thin. So try working in the middle and out. What's your favorite pie? My favorite pie is a strawberry rhubarb pie, which is happening right now. Yes, it is strawberry season right now. Our rhubarb has come up. I'm making a strawberry rhubarb pie very soon. Love that pie. Ever had it? Oh my gosh. If you haven't, you're missing out. This is a 9-inch pie dish, and I think that's gonna work. I'm gonna take the paper off, flip that over, and kind of work it while it's still on the paper. So gently pull the wax paper off. So next I need to roll the top crust, and while I'm doing that, I'm gonna pop this into the refrigerator. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, that is done. To our crushed crackers, I'm gonna sprinkle a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. Make sure everything's coated with the cinnamon. Then we're gonna pour that into our crust. Pour our cooled lemon syrup. This has been sitting for 1/2 an hour. Ooh, jiggly wiggly soup soup. Now we're gonna add our top crust. Use the paper. Any of that extra, I like to tuck it under. Not only does it make it texturally nice when you're eating your pie, it seals your pie, and it also gives you more to flute. So when it comes to fluting the pie crust, I use these 2 fingers and one of these fingers. This is when I want to make fatty flutes. If you want to make them narrower, you just make your fingers smaller. All right, now we're going to cut a few vents so that the pie can breathe a little bit while it's baking. Oh my gosh, you are gorgeous already. Oh, I forgot to put the butter in there. Rats. So I'm going to insert the butter into the holes because we gotta have the butter in there. Now I'm going to brush the top of this with my egg wash, and this will make it beautiful. We're going to pop this into a 425-degree oven and bake for 30 to 35 minutes. Bye, little pie. Alrighty, so we are back. Here is my beautiful pie. It's been cooling for about 2 hours now, so it's just warm. We don't want to eat it directly out of the oven because it'll be molten, and plus we want these sugars to set up a little bit. La la. Nice and flaky. Oh. Oh my gosh, it looks like an apple pie. Look at that. Okay, so here's our slice of pie, and I have to say, it looks a lot like apple pie. All the crackers kind of mushed together, and they're kind of syrupy, but I would never, ever in a million years know that this was crushed up Ritz Crackers. In a million years, never. This pie crust, by the way, is amazing. Look how flaky it is. Can you hear it? I'm gonna get a piece of the crust and the stuffing, of course. Itadakimasu. Wow. That's pretty impressive. Very, very impressive. Now, it has a very, very soft texture to it, more like applesauce. The crust is crispy on the outside, but soft on the bottom crust. The filling has a really great tart tanginess to it, and that comes from the cream of tartar. And it has, of course, a great cinnamony, sugary, a little bit of lemon to it. It's delicious. And it's got kind of layered flavors of butter. There's the real butter flavor that you taste from the crust and the butter that we injected into the filling. But there's this kind of margarine-y, cakey butter flavor too, which I think comes from the crackers. Never in a million years would I ever guess that these are Ritz Crackers. Ever. In making the syrup, we added 2 cups of sugar, which is a lot of sugar, but with the amount of cream of tartar that we put in here and in the lemon juice that we put in here, it's very, very well balanced. Now, this is certainly not low calorie by any means. A single serving of this is reported to be 410 calories, although if there is one giveaway, it would be the texture. The texture is very homogeneous and soft, almost more like an apple sauce. Even though we've created kind of an inverted sugar and it's almost like a pecan pie filling, it's kind of gelled together, it doesn't have any bite at all that you might find when you have an apple pie. It doesn't have any like chunks of apple in it, although some apples, depending on what kind of apples you use, really do cook down to more like an apple sauce. Alrighty, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I hope you guys learned something. Let me know in the comments if there's a recipe that you'd like me to test out or to try. Be sure to check out the Hard Times playlist if you've missed the previous episodes. Subscribe to my channel, share this video with your friends, and follow me on social media, and I shall see you in my next one. Toodaloo, take care, bye!